Some latest news surrounding the events of September 11, 2001, which I will read from a number of articles giving us the latest news from Bloomberg Law, entitled Law Firm with 9/11 History Dumps Golfer After Move to Saudi Tour. Law firm Cozen O'Connor has ended a 2-year sponsorship with professional golfer Jason Kolrak after he jumped to a breakaway circuit funded by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. A firm spokesman said in a statement, quote, "In light of Mr. Kolrak's affiliation with the new LIV Tour, we have mutually agreed he will no longer be an ambassador for Cozen O'Connor. We wish him well in his future endeavors," end quote. LIV Golf announced Wednesday that Kolrak, the 36th ranked player in the world, has joined the tour. Former European Ryder Cup captain Henrik Stenson and longtime PGA Tour pro Charlie Howell III have also defected. The new golf league has been widely criticized as an effort to sportswash Saudi Arabia's reputation. One prominent voice of that criticism is families of victims who died in the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Cozen O'Connor and its chairman, Stephen Cozen, have played a leading role in a lawsuit against Saudi Arabia filed by 9/11 victims and families in 2003. The lawsuit alleges that Saudi Arabian government employees aided the hijackers who carried out the attack and that Saudi-linked organizations financed Al-Qaeda, the terrorist group behind it. Saudi Arabia has constantly denied involvement in 9/11. The FBI last year declassified a 16-page memo that did not draw a conclusion on the allegations, but detailed links and contacts between the terrorists and Saudi nationals living in the U.S. at the time, including one of the country's diplomats. In an article written by Politico, headliner Trump World reaches out to 9/11 families on the eve of their LIV golf protest. Dozens of family members and survivors of the September 11 terrorist attack will head to former Donald Trump's Bedminster Golf Club next week to protest a controversial Saudi-backed LIV golf event there. Brett Eagleson, a founder of the group 9/11 Justice, told Politico the group will hold a press conference on Friday morning down the street from the exclusive club. Trump's Bedminster is the site of the next big event for the Saudi Arabian Gulf Series, and Eagleson's group hopes to call attention to the Saudi government's connections to 9/11 and call out the 48-man field heading to the tourney, which includes stars like Brian DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, and Phil Mickelson, for choosing to take Saudi payouts and look the other way on the country's human rights abuses and role in the worst terrorist attacks on American soil. According to Eagleson, over 100 9/11 victims' families and survivors are expected to attend the protest. They will, in addition, have the support of members of Congress like Senator Richard Blumenthal, Senator Bob Menendez, and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, though it's unclear if any lawmaker is able to show up in person. The protest places yet another unfavorable spotlight on what has become a source of sharp criticism for Trump. His and his family's ties to the Saudis and his association with LIV has come under the backdrop of a renewed push for the United States to more fully distance himself from the country over its human rights record. President Joe Biden himself faced recent criticism for visiting Saudi Arabia after vowing to make the nation a pariah. Trump appears to understand the sensitivity to Eagleson, whose father, John Bruce Eagleson, died in the South Tower on September 11, 2001, said a representative for Trump personally called him yesterday in response to a letter his group sent relaying his deep pain and anger over the decision to host two different inaugural LIV golf events. The aide, according to Eagleson, said Trump had read the letter and told Eagleson 9/11 is really near and dear to him, and it's so important to him he is going to remember everyone who signed the letter, and he personally told this individual to reach out. But Eagleson said it was of little to no value. He added, quote, "My response is, if it was so important to him, why did he tell you to call me? Why didn't he call himself?" The aide just kept repeating the same talking points, one being that the contract is binding, that there is no way out of it. And when I pressed on when the contract was signed, she said she didn't know, just continued to say that the president was flattered with the letter, which was a weird thing to say since it was not a very flattering letter. It called him a hypocrite, essentially, end quote. In addition to the letter, 9/11 Justice has also requested a meeting with Trump ahead of the tournament to express their concerns and discuss Saudi Arabia's role in the 9/11 attacks. The group is particularly focused on showing the public a clear connection between the 9/11 terrorist attacks and the Saudi government. They point to newly declassified documents relating to the U.S. government's investigation of the attacks and suspected official Saudi support for the hijackers as providing clear evidence of the nation's role that day. And of course, a story that I myself have reported on when it came out regarding the latest FBI declassification from the FBI Operation Encore and Pent Bomb reports, which state that Saudi government officials have provided a support network for some of the 9/11 hijackers involved, mainly Khalid al-Mihdhar and Wafa Hazmi, and maybe even Hani Hanjour. Dan Christensen, who I've interviewed for my podcast, Dark Hour, and who is probably one of the more underrated and most pronounced voices regarding the events of September 2001 and Saudi links in the United States. In his website, floridabulldog.org, which I will link in the description, should be a required viewing and reading. Headliner: A state secret no more. New FBI reports that Saudi government officials provided support for 9/11 hijackers. A 130-page FBI report written only last July lays out the numerous connections of U.S.-based personnel and entities controlled by the Saudi Arabian government to the al-Qaeda terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. It's the first time since the public learned of the existence of a secret investigation into the Saudis' role in 9/11, codenamed Operation Encore, that the Justice Department has declassified records previously declared to be state secrets that say Saudi government officials knowingly provided a support network for the first two al-Qaeda hijackers to enter the United States, and that would be Khalid al-Mihdhar and Wafa Hazmi. The new report lays out what it calls the FBI's investigations and supporting documentation regarding the religious militant network that was created, funded, directed, and supported by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and its affiliated organizations and diplomatic personnel within the United States. That network, as described in the report, was intertwined with the hijackers, quote, according to the report, quote, as Saudi government officials and intelligence officers were directly operating and supporting the entities involved with this network, their involvement with the activities of these organizations, individuals would logically be supposed to have the knowledge on concurrence of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabian government. This knowledge and or concurrence by the Saudi Arabian government is related to the 9/11 investigation, not only by the direct involvement of some personnel, but also via the creation of a larger network of such activities, end quote. The FBI report dated July 23rd, 2021 was written and approved by FBI officials whose names are redacted. It states that it consolidates and highlights the findings of 2 decades of investigation now deemed essential for future case agents of this program to understand the origin of the investigation. The report is among hundreds of pages of formerly secret documents about Operation Encore, ordered, reviewed, declassified, and released by U.S. President Biden starting last September to maximize transparency. Encore was the FBI's follow-up to its original 9/11 investigation, codenamed Pent Bomb, and examined the Saudi role in 9/11. Encore's existence was first reported by Florida Bulldog in late 2016. The FBI refers repeatedly in the report to the existence of U.S.-based Saudi support networks for the 9/11 hijackers. Previously, the FBI had not acknowledged that such networks were found. The report also names Prince Bandar bin Sultan, then Saudi Arabia's ambassador to the United States, and the Saudi embassy as being involved with the funding of a multitude of Islamic organizations, imams, and other religious figures within the United States, many of which were involved with militant ideology. Quote, several of these were known to be tied directly to Prince Bandar, as the propagation of militant ideology would naturally provide justification for those who were in the hijacker support network. These organizations will also be listed below, and quote, these passages, coupled with the reports, offer details that undermine what now appear to be outdated 9/11 Commission statements, long cited by Saudi Arabia to bolster its contention that it had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks on New York and Washington. The 9/11 Commission's final report concluded it had found that no evidence that the Saudi government, as an institution or senior Saudi officials, individually funded al-Qaeda. And furthermore, Commission staff found no evidence that the Saudi government, as an institution or as an individual senior officials, knowingly supported al-Qaeda and their affiliates. Of course, all this would turn out to be wrong. At the same time, however, the commission also stated, quote, the intelligence community identified Saudi Arabian as the primary source of money for al-Qaeda both before and after the September 11th attacks. A 2013 report by the European Parliament on Saudi Arabian support for religious extremism around the world noted it has been estimated that Saudi Arabia has invested more than $10 billion to promote its Wahhabi agenda through charitable foundations. A sizable slice of those funds were supposedly siphoned off by al-Qaeda and other terrorist network organizations like Jemaah Islamiyah, located in Indonesia, the Haqqani Network, located in Pakistan. Al-Qaeda and Jemaah Islamiyah operatives were then diverting about 15 to 20% of the funds to finance their operations, the 2013 report says. Wahhabism is Saudi Arabia's dominant faith, which is a fundamentalist sect of Sunni Islam akin to puritanical Salafism. A 2012 FBI status report on Encore released to Florida Bulldog in 2016 amid the Freedom of Information litigation identified a trio of Saudis known to have provided substantial assistance to 9/11 hijackers Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi after they arrived in Los Angeles in January 2000. Myself, DJ Thermal Detonator, Ryan Dawson, Paul Thompson, Kevin Fenton, and the new Kids on the Block called Podcast for New American Century, Darren Harvey and Sean Russell, have been currently reporting on this specific instance in which the Saudi Arabian government officials, such as Omar al-Bayoumi, Osama Basnan, and Fahad al-Thumeri, and Saeed al-Muassad al-Jarrah, who was the Saudi embassy's director of Islamic affairs. Meanwhile, Fahad al-Thumeri was the imam at the King Fahd Mosque. Bayoumi and Bassan were suspected Saudi spies who were aiding Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. We have been reporting on this ad nauseum for the last 15 years. The names Fahad al-Thumeri and Omar al-Bayoumi have previously been public, where Muassad al-Jarrah's name was originally redacted when the report was first released. His redaction is currently new. The 2021 report affirmatively identifies Jarrah for the first time as also working for the the Saudi Arabia's primary intelligence agency, the General Intelligence Presidency, otherwise known as the General Intelligence Directorate. Further, the report notes that Jarrah was close to Prince Bandar and later worked for him in Saudi Arabia at the National Security Ministry. But none of that was known or confirmed in January 2010 when one FBI report stated, quote, "It has been uncovered that Muassad al-Jarrah may have played a leadership role in the overall coordination of logistical support for Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar, as al-Jarrah oversaw the handling of the hijackers to his subordinates, Fahad al-Thumari and Omar al-Bayoumi, and by personal contact with the hijackers on numerous occasions." Meanwhile, Jarrah has denied any connection to 9/11, but is identified in other declassified FBI reports written as early as 2003 as being heavily connected to Saudi Sunni extremists operating inside the United States. And that is the latest updates to 9/11.